right. Welcome, everybody. Excited today to be talking to Coach Rosenthal, who's the head softball coach and athletic director over at Concordia University, Irvine. Super excited to have you on today, Coach. Thanks so much for taking the time to sit down with me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. And so basically, we just want to sit down and talk a little bit about leadership, about success, some of the things that you've accomplished in your career. And I asked this first question, even though I know a lot of people hate that first question, but, I found that us as women don't praise ourselves enough or give ourselves enough credit. So I want to make sure that everybody here knows some of the things that you've done and accomplished in your career, whether playing or coaching or now as an administrator. So maybe tell us a little bit about some of your accomplishments that you've done so far.
Yeah, you're right. We do hate this question. Honestly, the things that I'm most proud of, we've had a really successful run, and I say we have had an extraordinary staff literally since I've been here. In my right hand, my associate head coach Rose. We've been blessed, honestly, with really cool experiences because of the young ladies we've had the pleasure to coach. We've won conference a few times. We've won a national championship, and those are awesome experiences. And I'm not trying to downplay and say those weren't great moments.
Yeah.
If you know me, those moments are great, but I'm not a great celebrator. That's a weakness for me. I don't do a good enough job being present when we accomplish something awesome. The coolest moments for me are Alumni Day and having our kids come back with their families, and just a real sense of family. That is honestly what has kept me coaching so long. The winning and losing is hard, those are both equally hard for different reasons, but the relationship for me is my greatest accomplishment, I think.
Absolutely. I love that. And I think teams who win or are successful in the wins and loss records also, I think, focus a lot more on the things that you're talking about specifically, which is that camaraderie, the people that want to come back as alumni and celebrate, the next generation that comes in and comes through. And so you're doing it right. So, I've been a part of it. I've coached against you and it sucked, but,
Well, I do want to share really quick though, I had yesterday, one of my former players posted, to me, I'm going to get this picture blown up from my office. It was Alumni Day last year. It was one of my current players watering our grass after the alumni game. So I'm not going to lie, our alumni have fun on Alumni Day. They're not reachable that day.
They're
and they're doing their thing. And there's no husband in sight because they're mostly playing on our baseball field. They're playing. We have a lot of baseball, softball alumni married partners.
Okay.
And it's a picture of a current player with a hose, with a very small little girl from one of our past players, and then a little older girl.
Oh my gosh.
Somebody I coached with that also played for me. And they're just watering. And it's the coolest picture. And she put the caption, this is what a program's all about. And I thought, that is it in a picture, honestly. And it's a really cool picture. But that for me is what it looks like.
Oh my gosh. I might need that picture too to put in the back of my.
It's really, really cool. I'll share it with you. I'll share it with you directly. You'll see.
And basically because just all the things I've been listening to over, the summer and things like that with different conferences for coaches, and, a big hashtag that I continue to use is see her, be her. And I think that's a good representation of a younger player seeing a current player and a current player seeing an older player, and the progression through what we hope that we can accomplish as women in this world is to keep passing the torch and keep passing forward, and everybody paving that way. So that's awesome.
It's it's a cool, and to see what mom did, and to be proud of what your mom did out on that field.
Yes, absolutely. And so along the same lines of that, I'm also getting my PhD, and I'm doing a research on basically the barriers that women face and why there are not more women in leadership roles, at the NCAA division levels. And so you have made the 42% that is women in leadership positions. So congratulations. But when you think about that, how does that make you feel?
I'm proud of myself. I'm probably I come from a large family. And my brother, long story short, my brother wanted a brother. I'm the youngest, and he didn't get one. And my sisters are opposite of me. They're extremely petite, tiny. No offense to them if they ever listen to this, non-athletic. My older sister's really athletic, but she was a cheerleader. That's a different talk show.
Yeah.
Long story short, my brother was basically fine, then you're going to be my little brother. You're gonna be my little brother I never got. So I never really approached life what I couldn't do or what I wasn't capable of. And I'd be lying to say there are some things that haven't been harder. But I value working with men a ton. I learned a lot, a lot of things just working in that world. but I think how you make it, I think there's a lot of reasons why women have a harder time. Some of it is family oriented. You have to make decisions that are hard. And I'm not saying you have to stay in traditional roles, but that is generally, that's generally what happens. And then I think is just, it's hard in general to make it doing anything.
Yeah.
And I feel grateful. This place is, Concordia has really taken care of me over my career and given me opportunities. That's what I mean by taking care of me.
Yeah.
And that's why I've been so faithful and so loyal here, because at every part of my career, when it's probably time for the next step has been here. So I've never had to really go seek that somewhere else. So for me, the path has been hard in the work, but never about hard because I'm a woman, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's awesome, because I will say, like, one of the things that comes up is that homogeneity, I think is how you say it, but basically the idea that, folks hire people that look like them sometimes. And so it's not necessarily about the gender. It's basically just about the fact that, like, it's what's familiar. Right. And so breaking into those different certain areas a lot of times happens when people give you a chance, an opportunity like you did. And so that kind of leads to that second question is what have you done personally to try to help increase the number of women in leadership roles in athletics?
I think my main part is with my own student athletes on my team is just teaching them or helping encourage them to be better, stronger, more confident, more capable, so they can pursue whatever their dream is. And for some of them, we've had various dreams, and they probably change, yearly what their dreams are. just being a consistent person in their life to let them know that, you're capable of whatever your dreams are, and that you have a support system that will encourage you and support you to go do that. And it's okay if you change your mind. It's okay if you go back to what you originally said you weren't going to do. But I think for me, the biggest thing is finding, what I think it is? Let me stop spewing all these things. Like, meet people where they are with what they need and not what society thinks people should do, and I think really understanding with my girls, I always tell them, if your dream is to be a shoe salesperson, if your dream is to go be a doctor, if your dream is to be a housewife, I don't care what your dream is. I want to support that where you are. So figuring out where that is for them. I got my own dreams. I've had my own, this is not where my path was supposed to go. Wasn't my dream. It turned out to be my dream. Right. And so I think that's figuring out where they are and how I can best help them as they move through that process.
Just curious, what was your dream?
I want to be a lawyer or a politician, which is kind of probably. I mean, it's like a lot like coaching. I want to be like a political speechwriter, maybe. I think I could probably run for office at this point now. We all probably could. I don't know.
Yeah, no, for sure. Right. At this point, everybody could be a politician. But that's cool. And so, you talked a little bit about certain barriers that some women have in general. And then just, like you said, regardless of gender, there are just certain things you got to get out and want to grind and work hard at it. And, what motivates you to just keep grinding every single day?
Oh, that's a good one. I think some of it's my personality. I had great parents who really taught me work ethic. And again, being the youngest child, there's not a lot of time for excuses. Like, nobody cared. Honestly, it was like, just figure it out and let's keep going. And then I love to succeed, to be honest. That's like I am very personally motivated by excellence. I love to be around people that are excellent. I love talent. I love just people that are better than me. I love to learn. But I think the ultimate thing is you have to be willing to do things. The simple saying, like, do things others aren't.
Yes.
Nick Saban has one of my favorite quotes. It's just like, it takes whatever it takes to win. Like, it just takes what it takes. So every year, sometimes it's easier for us in a certain year to succeed than it is other years. Sometimes on paper, when we look really, really good, those are really hard years for me.
Yeah.
So every year I tell my team, it just takes what it takes. It might take less this year. I don't know, but it's going to take what it takes.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. That's amazing. And then, so just to shift gears a little bit, you also played at Concordia. Tell me a little bit about what made you decide that was a good fit for you.
So I played pretty competitive travel ball. Most of my friends, actually all my friends, went to Division I. I went to a small Christian high school, and I transferred there my last 2 years. And I had a very influential head coach of basketball and softball at that high school. So in order to go to this Christian high school, my family had to start going to church. And so that opened my doors to changing my faith a little bit, and that became more important to me. So I didn't know what Concordia was. I lived 40 minutes down the road, and I had never heard of it. And my coach wanted me just to consider Christian college.
Yeah. Christian
colleges I considered, this was probably the last one on my list. But my brother and his girlfriend at the time were pregnant with their first child. I was 18. or 17 actually, and I didn't want to miss that because I'm very close with my family. So my niece now is 23. She thinks she's going on 33. So I didn't want to miss that. So I wanted to go local. So that kind of limited my options. I walked onto this campus and that was it. It's just God's strong pull of this is where you're supposed to go. I did not get a huge scholarship offer because it did not exist here. Yeah. We weren't very good at softball. It improved, but man, it's come a long way since my early days here at Concordia.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you could just think a little bit back to that moment, what was maybe some things you struggled with in adapting from like high school to college? Was there anything that you may have struggled to adapt with?
Yes, the freedom. I did not make the greatest choices. My first couple semesters here, I had a lot of fun. And I forgot that school was a part of the process.
Yeah.
I think softball was hard. Sports were hard for me to adjust to. It wasn't as competitive as I was used to. So I had to get used to that. And then it was my own thing versus what my parents thought. And that's a natural process, I think, for all of us, right? And I think my parents probably wanted to kill me because I was not doing what they would have liked me to do. Simple things like doing your laundry, like not taking a nap every hour of the day. Like, you know, you have to like not eat Del Taco every night. Just like the normal things. I look back to my freshman year, I'm like, what a loser, man. Like I really needed to grow up. But it was good for me. It was really good for me. I had an awesome roommate my freshman year. I had really cool teammates. And it took me a minute like it takes most kids. So I wasn't the goody two shoes, straight A student. So I do well with students that maybe struggle like I did a little bit to kind of get yourself grown up a little bit.
I love that. I think that's super valuable and it's super important just because there are, like, I feel like our kids these days are so strung on perfectionism. And I think it has to do a lot with social media and, you know, they only see the great things that happen. Not very few people will document the process that it took for them to get there. And so, you know, thinking about some of your struggles, you know, laundry, growing up, you know, your choices versus your parents' choices. You know, what are some of the things that maybe some of the kids that come into your program now have to adapt to? Are they similar or are there more pressing things that you think are that we should maybe help prepare our athletes for to be ready to go into college with?
It's a good question. I think the phone, and I'm included in this, phone has changed a lot of things. And I think any year or any 5 years, you have a generational things you change. That's like evolving. I'm certainly not the same coach I was 15 years ago. Yeah. I was crazy and I'm a lot less crazy now. And I swear I am. I think the biggest things, some of the things are the same. You're homesick, you miss your parents.
Right.
You're not used to being sick the first time at college is a big deal for some kids because you want mom or dad. So I think the social media has made things harder because everything is exposed and what is true and what isn't true. Like good luck trying to decipher between those two things in terms of someone's pictures are an accurate picture of a very small moment of their day.
Yeah.
And if you come to Concordia softball, it is a big transition because I'm less crazy, but I'm very demanding. And I think getting used to, and I'm certainly not the only coach in the country like this, getting used to that every day is a lot. And I try to communicate that very clearly through the recruiting process. If you don't love softball and you don't love to work to have an opportunity to win, this is not a good place to go to school. And it might seem cool and it might look like we have nice uniforms and it looks like you want to be a part of this, but you in the middle of October really better be sure because it's a grind and I am relentless. Yeah. So you have to be okay with, I also have amazing hearing, scent, and seeing. So they think I'm crazy, but I can see everything. I hear everything. So you got to be on point every day. And that's what I expect. And I have some grace, right? But as you are here, you can't mess up too much. Yeah. I'll hold you accountable to it. And I don't get lazy and I don't get tired. I will keep going. And I think when I do get tired and lazy, I'm going to quit coaching because because I think that's like a good thing to learn from. Somebody taught me that. I didn't invent it. Somebody taught me. Yeah. And it was very in my life. So now my goal is to just teach it forward. Like be different than everybody else. Be willing to do things and be okay being coached and be okay being held accountable. Like you're going to survive it. I promise.
Absolutely. So there's two things that I want to pull for that. One is a funny thing, and I just want to point it out. So, you know, you're one of the first teams that I've seen wear like the green and the gold. You know, you did it well. And I was like, I could never do that. Right. And now it's funny that I'm at a community college that's actually green and gold. So see, so now
you can do it well too. They're great colors.
So that's the one thing. But the more serious point that I got from that, and I think it's valuable, and I've been posting about it this week a lot too, is just, when we are in the recruiting process with you, we're trying to determine how you fit into our program, right? And so one thing that I wanted to push to our athletes is that, like, hey, are you ready to be a leader when you first get into a program? And it doesn't mean come in and try to take over, but it's recognizing that, hey, I know that coach, based on our relationship between me and coach, like, I know that coach prefers this over that, or that the coach wants us to be a certain way or act a certain way. And when I have maybe an upperclassman that doesn't do that, are you willing to step up for the program's sake, right? And be able to say something about it. And I think that's super important. I think you learn that when you get to know the coach that you're trying to get recruited by.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if a lot of our kids actually go through those processes. And so, I think that's very valuable and such a huge thought that you said. And I hope that people hear that and recognize it. Absolutely.
Well, and do your homework, because the community is small. You can find people to tell you what coaches are really like. Recruiting is one thing, because I can tell you whatever you want. I do try to be, that is my one advantage and maybe disadvantage. I'm generally my authentic self. People might think me one way until they actually get to talk to me.
Yep.
I generally try to be like who I really am, so that you get to see, like, this is what, and when you come out to watch a practice, this is what you're signing up for.
Yep.
I'm normal, so I have better days and I have worse days. But the one thing that is consistent is I will always expect the same thing from you.
Yeah.
You can expect the same thing from me too, because I do better with consistency.
Yeah.
That part is, you do your homework. People know your coaches that you're looking to maybe play for, and just ask, take a poll of opinion.
Yeah.
It might not be bad, but it might not be for you. You know what I mean? Do your homework.
I literally created an unconventional timeline that I've been trying to give out to certain people who sign up on my website. But the timeline basically says, like, hey, if you are, you are privy enough to know that you want to play at the next level, when you're in the 7th and 8th grade years, like, I think it's a good time to visit a bunch of schools and like a bunch of games, and like, let's watch how the coach is. Like, let's actually look at her demeanor. Let's look at the players, how they're responding. Do they look happy, like on the bench? Do they look sad?
Mm-hmm.
Are they engaged? It'll tell you a lot about the things that you're looking for as you get older, and as you start to actually get into that process. And so I think it's a valuable thing to do. And the second thing you mentioned was an authentic personality. So I actually, a part of our program, do a personality test. And so the idea with that is to kind of get you to start thinking about, what ways can I express my needs and my values to other people? But how do I recognize, like, how my behavioral skills are and how they maneuver, like how they help me make certain decisions in life. And so I think that's very valuable that our kids, I wish I would have taken that test a lot younger, because I think I would have been a lot better off, more confident in like being able to be the person that I am. And I felt like I had to like hide that a lot of times growing up. So I want my athletes to not have to do that, when they get to that point.
For sure.
So, leadership athletics is the name of my business. And so when you think of leadership and you think about leadership skills, do you think they're valuable to have? And like, what do you think about when you think about leadership?
That's a good question that I know I'm prepared for. I think when I think about leadership for me, and I'm going to dumb it down for myself, I think about someone that can get me to do something I otherwise might not have. For me, that's what leadership, like, that's what a leader can get me to do, whether that's like believe in myself, whether that's like, I actually don't want to go ahead and do that run, or I actually don't want to go ahead and go on that diet. But a leader, there's a lot of aspects to leaders, and we all have different preferences about what kind of leadership we like. But for me, I think, so everyone always asks, like, are you born a leader? Can you develop leadership skills? I think it's a combination of both. And I think leadership skills for a long time were like, only looked like this, right? They only look like, but they look like so many things. If I look back on things that I've coached, like some of the strongest leaders really weren't even recognized as a leader at the time. But when you think about the impact they made in your program, it's like, no, actually you were a leader in your own way. So for me, leadership is, I go back to this every time, like being your best self with what you bring to the table. That's like what a leader is for me, because leader isn't like raw. I'm not and I know if you play my teams, we're loud and annoying. That is so anti why we do that. I just tell them, be whoever you are. If you're loud, be loud in my dugout. If you're quiet, don't say anything. I don't care what you do, just do you, pretty much. So leadership for me is just, so part of a leader though is you have to be consistent, you have to be honest, and you have to be willing to do the things that you are trying to lead others to do. That's the hard part about leaders. And that's where I think coaches get kind of mixed up.
Yeah.
They want all their kids, but they don't want to reverse. They can't things back. So you better be who you say you are. Like, I'm careful. I tell my kids, I don't ever want to tell you something that I can't do myself. Even my coaching staff, I never want you to feel like you have to tamp the mound if I'm not capable of. And that's my leadership skill. Like, I'm going to get in there and do it with you. I might not have time to do it with you every day, but I'm going to get in there and I'm going to do it with you. And you're going to know, like, there is nothing I wouldn't do that I'm asking you to do.
Yeah. I love it. I love that. And then, I think success is another one that's kind of broad, right? It's a broad thought process. And so, what are some ways that, like, you as an administrator and as a leader, and as a coach, how do you define success outside of the wins and losses?
Yeah. And, really, I'm not easily impressed. I'm mostly not impressed with myself. Like, and that's, again, it's a strength and weakness because it's hard to ever sit in the moment and be like, wow, we've had a pretty good run here. I think I success by the experience of my student athletes, because that is the one thing I'm most hell-bent on when I took this job. It's not that I had a bad experience, but I had 3 coaches in 4 years. So it wasn't the greatest experience, but it probably also helped me understand coaching a little bit better, to be honest.
Yes.
Average player, I would say, and I think I had above average intelligence about games. So I was a really good player coach, and I played a lot. I started on most teams I played on because I understood the game. So I understood I wasn't very good. So I had to really understand the game.
Yeah.
So I think here, success is their experience. It's when they walk away and say, like, I had the greatest time. And some of those times are because they're like lifting at 6 a.m. Like, that's awful. It's the greatest experience. That's the best compliment. We have really, really good retention inside of Concordia softball. And I really accredit that to this culture of the program. Is like, once you're in, you're in. It's like, once you're in, you're in, and you're in it for the long haul. So that's for me is that experience piece. And a big part of that for us is winning. Winning is a lot more fun, but winning also, to get to that place, you had to do a lot of those culture pieces on the way. So that's what that experience is. They feel more confident in themselves. They feel more confident leading others. They feel they had a lot of fun, and they understand, like, we really truly cared about them. I'm not here to be your friend.
Yeah.
I'm here to be your person if you need me. And I think that's what success is. And I do love the wins. They're awesome.
Me too. And I
highly recommend.
More fun than losing. Absolutely.
Easiest equalizer, just win more.
Right. Everything else will go away. No, but that's awesome. And so you mentioned 2 things in there. One, confidence, which is kind of leads right into the next question that I have for you, which is, how I feel like our athletes these days struggle with that. And I talked about in the very beginning with that first question, how sometimes we don't like to talk about ourselves. And maybe it's not about confidence, but I think a lot of our athletes lack confidence. And so is there any advice that you can give athletes on how to help build their confidence?
Yeah, and the first part's going to come off maybe a little bit harsh, but I think part of what people are lacking is this ability to work. Like, they don't work hard. So when you're very prepared at something, you gain confidence, right? This is why the old adage of it, when you work hard, I tell my kids, it's like when you come here and you haven't lifted hard and you don't make mechanical adjustments, you didn't watch your film, your refs halfway during the week, you aren't going to feel confident. Why would you? Your body's not prepared the way it could be. It's like walking into a test without studying. So I think the first part is, if you want to feel confident, you have to earn it. There's no, I get to be confident today because I want to. And then I think the other thing is that small quote, like, comparison is the thief of joy. You have to be confident in the things that you control, that you can manage. And when you worry about what everybody else is doing, and we all fall victim to this, when you always looking at the other, I fall victim to this in coaching. Like, how do they win that? What am I doing? It's like, don't worry about what everybody else is doing.
Right.
Worry the gifts you've been given and cultivate those things so that now you're prepared and you're utilizing what you can. That's how you gain confidence. I just get so mad when people are like, you just have to believe in yourself. Like, okay, then if you believe in yourself, then prepare yourself. And you just doesn't magically grow on a tree,
Yeah.
I'm very confident in myself because I work extremely hard.
Absolutely.
There's areas I'm insecure that I'm like, oh, I'm just like I'm a normal girl, like every other girl, right? I have these insecurities, but the confidence in what I do is like, I work hard. So I'm prepared. And if you can go ahead and beat my team, it's not going to be because I wasn't prepared. It's better than we are. And I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with that, but in the moment, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I think, and that's the secret. People are looking for this confidence. Well, then work at it, man. If you want to be confident, work at it.
Oh my gosh. I literally did a webinar a couple weeks ago, and that was literally my number two. My number one was understanding your why. Like, why do you want to put in this work that you're going to have to do to prepare for it every day, right? And so that's awesome that you said that. And so just the second point to that other thing that you said was the success piece, and then even the confidence piece, I think ties into it. Basically, you're talking about a process and trusting a process. And so how do we help navigate for our parents, or what advice can we give to parents to kind of help them to start thinking more along the lines of supporting their athletes during their process versus their outcomes?
Mm-hmm. First of all, stop trying to mitigate failure for them. Let them experience the failure.
Yeah.
Tell them how to manage that, I think. And then secondly, let them have a voice for their own success or failures, which means let them learn to communicate. My parents were awesome, and maybe they were lazy because I was the last kid. I don't know, but they always told me, we will always step in if your health or safety is at risk.
Yeah.
It's playing time, or it's you're not happy on a team. You talk to your coach. I'm not calling your coach. You know, my dad was a coach, so maybe that's why. But I think this concept of you have to control every aspect of your child's path.
Yeah.
Like, the thing is, it's their path, so let them navigate it. And if you give them some tools to do that, it would be helpful. Then I think the second part is, it is very helpful for your kid to sit on the bench. That is not a bad thing. Please embrace that opportunity for your child, because that's life. And the only way you get yourself off the bench, you have to have been on the bench. There's a small percentage of people that never go on the bench because they just have this God-given talent, right? So that's like, there's very small. Like, the he probably never sat on the bench, so he's not going to. But I think everybody else needs to work through this. It's okay that they fell. They could also be okay on the bench.
Yeah.
And I don't care if you're paying $1,000 a month to play on this team. They're still on the team. So the bench is valuable. And again, some of my strongest former athletes that I'm the most proud of their growth are kids that they didn't play for me much either.
Wow.
But these girls were awesome. You could see this grit in them. Let me get as good as I can get.
Yes.
And I never get as good as the kid in front of me, but I'm okay with that. I'm going to keep getting good.
Oh my gosh.
Parents don't let that happen enough because they're afraid. And I get it. There's a lot of reasons to be afraid of your kids failing in today's world, but I think they're going to make it if you support them in the proper way.
In the proper way. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here. I got about 2 more questions for you. So my first question is, you know, if you can give some advice to yourself now that would help you when you were younger, what advice would you give yourself?
Work harder as a player. Like, I was a jokester. I like to talk a lot. No, not surprising. But work harder. And I think the piece I just talked about, don't be so caught up in the outcome of your playing of your own stuff. I think if I could have known that, it would have been the minute you transition into coaching, you're like, boy, if I could have just known this.
Yeah.
You know, transition into head coaching, it's like, wow, if I would have, then I get this job in athletic director. And it's like, if I would have just known.
Yeah.
Trying to seek that out. And then I think it's just have fun, man. It's the funnest time of your life to participate in athletics. Like, really, really enjoy your teammates, enjoy the striking out, enjoy the base winning hit. Just enjoy it because it's meant to be fun. It's a game. It's meant to be fun.
Absolutely. And then I have this big thing. So, you know, I never try to lead with the recruiting process when I'm working with athletes. Like, I want them to build so much more that's going to help them in their career. So I always have the saying, they're destined for more. My other saying is, you know, I want our female athletes to own their power in the world, right? And so if you can give us one trait that you believe every female athlete should have to own her power in the world, what would that one trait be?
I don't know if this is the right, I go back to that, like, know your authentic self, embrace who that is. And the earlier you can do that, you can figure out not who you're trying to be, but who you are. That is a very powerful tool, I think, for every person in the world. If you can stop worrying about what you think you might want to look like, or what you think you sound like, or how you should dress, be who you are, and then see how you can work hard to improve that woman. How can you, and I think we all go through that. That's called, but once I figured out, like, I have a little bit of a deeper voice. People perceive me as not very nice sometimes. I come across not super friendly. I'm not very bubbly. I have a very monotone tone. That's just who I am. Like, and if you want to take the time to get to know me, you'll see, like, that's not really who I am.
Oh my gosh.
On the field, but as soon as the game is over, I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't want to be your best friend on the field. I just don't. Do you know what I mean? But off the field, I'm super cool. But you have to take a minute to get to know that. So I think Learning that about myself and stop trying to, when I was young coach, I was probably over the top unfriendly. And it was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? I don't need to be like this. The umpires will tell you I've gotten a lot nicer over the years. You learn like, this isn't who I am, and I don't need to pretend to be some real hard ass to win games. That's not what reality is. So I think that's, I would say, be yourself. It's more than enough. And you'll figure out how to manage that person a lot easier than you'll managing a fake person.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So many nuggets there. I'm definitely going to close it out with that one. So that was awesome. Thank you so much. I don't know
Thank you for having me.
else, but I'm glad to get the time to talk to you today.